Hello everyone and welcome back to video 16 in this series. Uh, I'm just preparing for some lectures for a summer camp for high schoolers in game dev, and part of that preparation I was recording the videos and I thought other people might be interested in, so I'm sharing them. These aren't the final version of the lectures, just uh, yeah, there's lots of edits after I've been watching the videos, but I've been going through and in the last video I said I was going to get to the character. I think I need to stop doing that because when it's a couple hours later, I realize something else that needs done. But if you've been following along, in the last video, we kind of set up, uh, introduced scripting with a simple thing done to the directional light to simulate the passage of time. But we didn't really address the sky. I was going to do that later. That was going to be the first example of coding a shader properly. And I realized that I kind of wanted to do something with that. And when I thought about it, I realized there would be a really easy part for introduction to scripting to do with the sky, not the final version. We'll do a nice shader later. I'm going to go ahead and do something with that sky because it should probably be blue during the day and black at night. So not a full shader, but just to change the color. And then the big thing is, how do we find the values? Um, how do we find access to the values we want in our script from our interface here? So I'm going to go ahead and do that. It should just take a couple minutes. There's just a couple steps to it. And it's not going to be a super fancy sky, just blue during the day and um, very dark blue at night, maybe black at night. But the big thing is going to be, how do we find the values without going and looking them up? Can we look at our interface and find the values we need for our script? Which I guess the fact that I asked that question means the answer is yes, right? So what we need for our sky and fog and everything else, and we'll do a nicer sky later. This is not the nice sky. This is more of a intro to scripting portion. Uh, all the sky and all that stuff goes as part of our environment. So we'll select the root node and add a new environment. If we search for environment, Godot, they call them the world environment, and there's no properties to it yet. So if we come over to the inspector, we'll notice it's empty. So we can create a new environment. And then after we select that, when we click again, we get a bunch of options. And under background, right now it's a clear color. That's definitely not the one we want. And before long, we're going to use the sky shader. Uh, that's that's going to be the introduction to shaders. So a nice sky there. But for now, I'm just going to throw a color on here so we can change a little. And I'll choose from this drop down and grab something bluish. That'll work for now. Maybe not the best sky. What I do want to do is find out what that color is. And we need to access it from our script is the main thing. So I'm going to rename this as sky because that looks like it'll be a lot easier to type into the script and then go into the sun script and access that background color from the sky and change it appropriately for day and night. And this video is mostly about how to find those things. So if we come over to the scripting section and go to the sun one, because we're not quite ready for the player one, just kind of want to see some basic concepts. Well, the value we need is on this sky object, not on the sun object. And we saw in the previous video how we can grab all that stuff about the sun object directly. How do we get the stuff about the sun object? And we can type something in. I'm going to do this drag and drop Godot has. Uh, if we click and then hold Control and start dragging that over to the script, it drops in a reference to it. So we have this onReady annotation, and onReady runs right before ready. So right before we run our initialization function, this is saying go create a variable that grabs that sky node. And I'm going to add a colon in right here to infer the type, to make sure that the computer always takes time to figure out what type it is and kind of optimize the RAM usage so we get better speed. Uh, so now we have a reference to our sky, and to figure out what we need, maybe we can just start printing that out. So let's print sky. Let's see what that is. Let's save that and give it a run. And basically just give it a second to make sure nothing crashed. Okay. And down here, looks like we have this world environment. Okay, so that's what we were looking for. And now if we pull, we have direct access to the sun stuff. If we pull up these values, so that's in the environment, right click and copy the property path like we were doing. Um, can we paste that in there and just keep adding these until we find the one we want is the basic idea. So it printed out, well, now we got an environment, so that's the right thing. What about background? If I right click on background, copy that, and add a dot and a paste. Oh, well, apparently that's just a label because it's still printed in environment, so that's not the one we need. Let's check color. Copy that, paste that in, and give that a quick run. Oh, there it is. So it gave us this color value. So I'm going to take, looks like that's the value we want. So I'm going to grab this, hit copy, and this one was the night, this one was the day. So during the day, I will assign that color, which I guess we'd have to look up in the docs or something to see that there is a color method. Which, by the way, in Godot, if you hover over something and hit Control Enter, it pulls up the documentation right here. As that one might need to be looked up. I'll tell you that's there, but then we printed out our color. Notice it prints as a tuple. So we need something to initialize that as a color type, an object type of color, so we can use it. Oh, whoops. That's not the value that goes in there. I meant to copy and paste this. These four little numbers here. And looks like floating point numbers because our color, if we look at it, it was full blue on the RGB. We can see the FF there. 1, 2, 3. Yeah. So it has full blue, so it must be 100%. So it looks like these take in percentages. That'll be important information to know later. Or on the next step, because then for ninth, we can paste in, let's see, if we want black is 0, 0, 0. So maybe I won't go quite that far. What if we do 0 0.1, 0 0.1, 0 0.1? So just almost black, but not completely there. 10% of each color. Let's see what that looks like. If we save it, give that a run. During the day, it's blue. And before long, it should reach night. I guess I could have turned the speed up a little bit to see that. And in the summer camp, I'm going to be giving the students challenge things. Like they'll probably be about half the time in these videos, and then the other half of the time is I'm planning on lab time. So after we do this step, then we take 20 minutes to see if they can ease that phase, ease that transition down, and then we'll get on to the next step. So that's how the summer camp plan is going to be. It's not just purely these videos. There's challenges along the way. Like their character will have a nose. When we did it in the video, it's just a flat face. But it looks like that's changing a little. It gets kind of dark. So I'm thinking maybe could keep something like this ratio. What if we turn the blue back up? That way it's not completely black and it still seems relevant to our sky, which is subtle now, but that whenever we get to an actual shader there instead of a color, that's going to be our example to nice shaders. That will hopefully it'll make more sense to not completely disregard our sky. So that's a nice dark blue. Maybe looking at this ratio, it's about a quarter, about a half, and then full blue. So maybe I'll turn that up so that we have a similar ratio. About a quarter, about half, full blue, so it's just cut down from what it was earlier. That's the sort of math we do most often in game dev. Just those rough estimates of uh, adjusting ratios and proportions and things like that. And yeah, in the summer camp, I'm going to make a nice little lab and see if they can do a transition. That'll work. Could be a little darker, I guess. We should give it one more try. And yeah, then we'll go over the concept and uh, then take a bit of lab time so to see if they can make a little adjustment like to smooth that transition between the blue and the black so it's not just suddenly nighttime, suddenly day. But that'll work for the videos here. And then we'll move on to the next video, and I'm going to stop trying to preview what's going to happen in the next video because that's I keep getting it wrong as my ideas change. All right, so just a little bit on the sky and another step on the introduction to scripting with how do we look around this interface of the game engine and find the value we need for our script without going and uh, going and spending a bunch of time looking it up, because these are all values that we should have access to from our script. So hopefully that was helpful, and it involves a lot of just printing the output and trying different things until we find it. I will see you in the next video.